Welcome to our webinar today. We're going to talk a little bit about the rear view and the road ahead. Um, Speaking of 2024, some insights that we've gleaned and looking ahead to 2025. We have Travis Johnson, owner of Axio Automotive, with us today,
Wow, thank you.
and appreciate him and being able to share some insights on what's worked and what he's anticipating looking forward to this coming year. I wanted to start and just share a little bit of just a more of a broader market economy update. As we think about what's ahead, we do see that there's a little bit of a smaller middle market economy. And I think brands have to make decisions of, are we appealing to premium luxury buyers, or are we appealing to value buyers? And really being thoughtful there. And I think it's a choice that needs to be made of who do we speak to and who do we represent. We also see that brands really need to partner and become more involved and personalized in how they interact with consumers, whether that's Super Bowl, cultural moments with Gladiator, with other sitcoms, Netflix series, etc. I think there's some key moments that ads should no longer feel like ads. It should be entertainment. That's what Gen Z expects. And so how do we continue to entertain and embed brands within those cultural moments? And then just lastly, thinking about, remembering all of the logos and ads that you saw every day. I think we sometimes see anywhere from 25 to 3,500 logos or ads a day. And how do we have ad resonance? How do we have staying power? What we're doing should be memorable, funny, have a unique story behind it. And so brands need to keep that in mind, especially as we're just, constantly bombarded with advertisements. As we think about automotive, and for our discussion today, some of the big picture automotive shifts that we're seeing, EV, although not as hot as it once was, continues to kind of dominate the market's attention in the future. So we think about the EV ecosystem and how charging stations need to be more plentiful. Maintenance. I took my EV vehicle to a Jiffy Lube a couple of months ago, and they turned me away, and they said, "We don't want anything to do with you." And just allowing for businesses to begin to accommodate there. The other big thing that I think we're looking ahead in automotive is our cars potentially become the biggest touchscreen that potentially I own. So when we think about smartphones, think about iPads, we think about computers, our cars in the future could be one of the biggest sources of commerce, of connectivity, of ordering groceries, of, checking, is my flight on time, and rerouting and whatnot. And so there continues to be an immense opportunity with all the technology integrating, now and in the future. So with that, we want to turn some time, learning a little bit about what Travis and Axio Automotive, how they've looked at 2024. We've seen, high interest rates. 2023, the Federal Reserve spiked those, so high that it potentially became a little prohibitive for some people wanting to buy vehicles. It impacts affordability. And I'm curious, as we've been kind of through the ringer maybe a little bit in 2024, how have interest rates, how have, inflation, how has that impacted consumer demand as you think about, the automotive market?
Yeah, it's interesting. People would think that it affects it immensely, and I think that as we look at markets and we look at things changing, you have individuals or companies that knee-jerk, and then you have others that kind of settle in and take a look at the landscape before making any judgment calls and changing any processes, or the whole model needs to change. And it seems like it's not necessarily the market, it's more the operator or the company in itself and how they address the issues of an interest rate, let's say. The need for vehicles and the demand for vehicles will always be there, and it's proven to be that. Like, it's just not going away. They've tried a number of different things, the one price shopping, shop online, all these different things, and none of that really takes hold. And so you would think that an interest rate would change that. It actually doesn't, because there's a different need at that point, right? So if the interest rate goes down to 3%, you're going to have that higher level market is probably going to be more inclined to do something in that particular moment. And the market that may be not able to take advantage of that rate due to credit situations or challenges, financial challenges or whatnot, they really can't garner that interest rate, they'll hold off. So it seems like the market just changes a little bit. So when the higher level market holds, you have a different segment of the market that comes out. And so and with deficiencies in vehicles and stuff, and when you're looking at other goods and products and things that are out there, it's kind of the same thing, right? I mean, it all boils down to really what can you afford.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about some of the online buying platforms from an auto perspective. We saw the rise and the fall of Carvana.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting to see in the dealership community. At first, it was, we're a little bit nervous. How's this going to disrupt the industry? Now it's almost laughable. And so just curious, as we see as consumers, other ways to buy cars, ways to look at financing, we're inundated with that from a commercial ad perspective. But it seems like most people are still buying cars at dealerships.
Yeah. And that's something that when you look at the Carvana model, trying to flood the market in buy online vehicles and such, and we'll pick your vehicle up from you. If you read on the experiences that are out there, it's just so difficult. There's just so much transactional information that's each car deal takes, and purchasing an automobile. We've got multiple people sitting in this room right now. And if you look around, each individual is a completely different human being, completely different circumstances, completely different automobiles, completely different credit. I mean, there is not one thing that's the same, correct? So they're going to shop different. And when you can't accommodate that individual in the needs and their transportation needs and what they're looking to do, you're not going to be able to pull down enough of the market to make that happen. And unfortunately, it's we want what you want. We would absolutely love to sell you a vehicle online. That would be the easiest part of my day. I would get rid of about 63% of my personnel expense. As a business owner, that would be phenomenal. But unfortunately, it's just not feasible. It's just there's no way that it's going to take hold. Now, on a new vehicle, you're buying a Toyota Corolla for $28,000 or whatever it is. You have no trade-in, perfect credit. Okay, maybe that situation would dictate that. But I think you still have that human nature in you to, can I get a little less, or is there a cheaper price, or is there a better payment? I mean, how do you facilitate taking care of the finances for the consumer, right? There's just so much that's involved.
It's interesting. I purchased my last vehicle online on my phone at a stop sign. And it was an electric vehicle from the OEM. And although that was an easy process, then as we got into selection, as we got into finances, I mean, it took a lot of handling. And it was, that's why we have dealerships, because it accommodates for this longer buying process.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions that go into answered. So talk a little bit about, we had the 2024 elections, and there's a lot of dollars spent. There's a lot of uncertainty. Are you seeing a difference of consumer demand or willingness to buy now that November 5th's over, or does it feel similar?
That's a great question. Again, it goes back to, you just have different groups of people, right? Yeah. And so ones that hold and ones that don't. And I think everybody right now is still kind of holding out until, the new administration's in office, and to see what kind of strings and levers and things they're going to pull. But they're buying almost exactly the same. We really just don't see that. Again, you have companies, a company takes hold of the mindset of the people that are running it, right? And so if your thought processes are based on what is the market like, what are the interest rates like, how that's going to affect my business, you're almost making your business go in that direction. And automotive is the most resilient business. I mean, you look at the pandemic, you look at 2008 and 9, you look at all of that stuff, we were able to completely turn each dealership over instantly on its head, take a 90-degree, and become extremely efficient. It's incredible. And so, I don't see a drastic change coming there. I've also, we're fairly young, and we've built 9 stores in just a hair over a year, and so but I've been doing this since '94, and it just seems like the ebbs and flows are always going to be there. It just depends on, do you want to take advantage of the opportunity, or are you just going to let the market dictate what you do?
Well, and great advice for any entrepreneur. and thinking about, regardless of market conditions, how am I taking advantage of and potentially stealing market share from those that are maybe a little bit more docile and, have a little bit of trepidation.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an interesting one in itself. That's kind of what we're doing right now. My mindset right now is on growth mode. And some would say, why? And, you're spending millions and millions of dollars, and the fear behind that. Well, when things are so-called good, or whatever you want to call it, and the times seem to be improving or whatnot, you get a lot of people that kind of hold. And so I've seen in the market, you get a lot of people that are just kind of staying stagnant. They're waiting to see what happens. I don't want to spend too much money in this area or that area. And they're really trying to define everything, attribution, all kinds of different things. They're trying to define it to its lowest common denominator to put down, I want to put the right amount of money in its particular area. To me, I believe that that's too granular. You start going that granular, you're going to dictate the company's going to, you hold when those thoughts are there. And I believe going hard, even at a higher interest rate. I mean, you look at some of these very, very successful people, when rates are at their all-time high, they buy the most that they've ever bought. It's going to come down, right?
Yeah.
And so buys are fairly decent then. You have a lot of people selling in those kind of markets, which we do think a lot of dealerships are going to come available now, not because of interest rates, but mostly because of gross compression, per car gross compression. That's come down a ton. People don't know how to operate.
On tighter margins.
Yeah, the pandemic just really made everybody look like an all-star, and they weren't. And so you have a lot of people that are going to be weeding out because they can't sustain with the current setup they have. So
market adaptation and the right mindset.
Yeah, but that's when we like to go. I say go and go hard.
Well, so speaking of a little bit of some growth opportunity, EV and all vehicles of that nature we see a mega trend. 1 million units were sold last year in electric vehicles. This year, that's projected to be a little bit higher. We know that, the Mountain West, certain parts of the country lack infrastructure. And, I think about, I went on a camping trip this summer, and I couldn't be the one that drove because we went to Yellowstone. And there was just no way I could pencil to even get there.
Yeah.
And so there continues to be some challenges there, but I imagine we a little bit overcome. Maybe talk about how you're thinking about electric vehicles, how that's incorporated into your inventory as you're looking ahead.
That's a great question. And everybody's mindset is on that right now. And then obviously with the current administration, or the incoming administration, and the current administration, two completely different mindsets there, right? So it's really polarizing, and it's fun to watch, and it's really fun to be a part of, actually, I think, because your strategy changes. And I was not a big EV guy at all. I'm all about gas and power and whatever, but I've really taken hold, to the EV market, and understanding that, as a matter of fact, we took a big risk with the $4,000 credit from the government. There were a whole slew of Teslas that were on the market from a company that had purchased a bunch, and they didn't have the infrastructure to charge the vehicles, and they thought renting them would be a good business model. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. And so you have thousands that were in the market ready to go. Well, it was just kind of one of those moments. You're sitting there discussing options and whether or not we should buy, 20, 30, or 2, 3, to 400. And so I took the risk and bought over 400 of them, 432 to be exact, and we sold them in 42 days with proper advertising.
Yeah.
And that was where the message had to be absolutely pinpoint perfect. And it had to be clear and resolute, so that a consumer knew exactly what they were going to do and experience at your dealership when they bought the vehicle. And it worked out really, really well. I wish we had that opportunity. So instantly, we shifted the market. Those vehicles went up about $5,000 per car in price, and kind of takes you out of the market at that point in time, with the government mandates how you have to structure those car deals and stuff. But going back to EV, I'm starting just a complete EV dealership, all used EV dealership, and that's how much I believe in it today. We're constantly selling them every day. I think that the infrastructure will be there. Well, I know that it will be there. Then you come with solid state batteries and stuff, and it's going to be a phenomenal market. And in my opinion, it's not an either or. For me, it's oh, I don't know, I would call it, I don't know the proper words, but for me, I love it because you're just giving me a whole nother area of
Yeah.
something to sell.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just another bolt on to something that I'm already doing. It's
Yeah.
giving me more opportunity. So as a business owner, it's just more opportunity to business.
And I think your attitude of how do I provide an incredible consumer experience and make sure that this purchasing of a vehicle, it's awesome. And it doesn't matter if it's an electric or if it's gas.
Yeah.
They still want a great experience.
And so to your point about taking it to Jiffy Lube and not being able to get any service work done or whatnot, and that's something that the industry is working on right now. We own our own warranty company. And so I had to adjust to that. And so we have to cover these batteries, and the batteries are extremely expensive, very difficult to deal with. You have to have specialty tools. I mean, you have to have, those batteries are somewhere, 9,500 pounds in some cases.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have the equipment to be able to lift those out, how to pull the car apart, all kinds of different things. And they really have to be, there's lots of training that goes into that. So we figured that out. And I think, there's a bunch of different really cool models that are starting to come out where you essentially own the battery. You're just paying a payment on the battery itself, and the battery is warranty. Because these cars really, I mean, for the most part, if you think about it, they'll last as long as you want them. They'll last forever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can throw a new battery in the car,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
anyway, lots of really, really good stuff there. And I think that infrastructure is coming. There's no doubt about it. Everybody knows that it's going to be a part of our world. Um, I'm with Toyota on this sense, I guess. Like maybe I shouldn't say Toyota or whatnot, but I love Toyota. I love the way they do their marketing. They're incredible. And also, they didn't jump on the EV bandwagon, of course, and you can see that. They know that it's coming, and they'll take advantage when that time is right, and they'll have a product that's perfect for it. Right.
Yeah.
So again, back to the not knee jerking,
Yeah.
but they know will come.
So as you think about electric versus hybrid, I'm curious your take on that. I think even though I own an electric and a gas powered, hybrid might be the biggest hack out there. And I'm curious if you see that continuing to be a mainstay in the market and growing for some time, or will that eventually fade as the EV infrastructure builds?
No, that won't fade at all. Hybrid, I believe, will be one of the biggest sellers in the market versus gas or ICE or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
There's different terms for them. And then EV itself. If you think and you consider, so go tow with an EV, right?
Yeah.
So if you're towing a boat or a trailer or whatnot, there's
It scares me.
Yeah.
I have nightmares about these conversations.
yeah, it does, right? So that's where hybrid comes into play, and hybrid's just phenomenal. The gas mileage you get, the power that you get, the security that you get, the knowing I can get home, all of that stuff. You don't get the battery fatigue. You're not turning the air conditioning off to make sure that, so all of those things you don't have, but you do have the affordability. I mean, they're really phenomenal when it comes to gas, but. For instance, if you look at Airstream, they have batteries in their trailers now, so the trailer can actually drive itself. Have you seen those?
No.
Yeah, it's incredible.
amazing.
So that will not be a draw on the vehicle towing,
Yeah.
in a sense, right? So you've got two electric vehicles. You've got the electric trailer, the electric vehicle, and so they'll come out with stuff. But once you start getting into the 550 to 600 mile range, EV. Game changer.
It solves it.
And it's going to happen. It's solid state with a charge in 10 minutes. I'm going to put a big charging station in at one of my dealerships, and we're going with the fast chargers. They're $250,000 a piece, right? They're super expensive, but there is a real, you can really make those things work to your advantage. With so many people driving by, they'll stop and hang out at your dealership for quite a while. And, so
kick the tires, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's just an opportunity to meet another person and to have them there, and they're charging and they're paying for the charge, right? So, there's a lot of good, really, really good numbers behind these things if they're done right.
Hey, when I think about owning a boat and pulling it with my EV, I think about getting to the lake.
Yeah.
And that would be, that's an exciting moment. But coming home is just that's what scares me. I'm not convinced it can make it that amount of range that much.
And you're right. That's the issue today.
Yeah.
Do you know they have electric boats now?
No.
So Nautique has an electric boat.
Okay.
They're incredible. So it's happening. It's coming, and it's just going to be a whole other segment of the market. It's not going to drive the other way, in my opinion.
As you think about 2025, and you alluded to this a little bit, but interest rates hopefully come down. we were past an election. We know a little bit more how the new administration may or may not play their cards. It'll be interesting to see Elon Musk in Trump's ear, because he is, the epitome of the electric vehicle market. Trump not necessarily, and how those two, as you said, how they collide, converge, or come together.
Yeah, so the latest is they're going to do away with the tax credit on the if you're leasing an EV, right? So the tax credit will not be there. Well, Elon's statement to that, if you listen to any of the podcasts or any of that kind of stuff, it's pretty cool to listen to. But his comment to that was, I think we're probably just, I think that's a great decision, smart to do. Value of my vehicles go up. And we're probably going to push some of those other manufacturers out that are not, I don't know, not as robust or financially fiscal or in a position to be able to maintain. So I think with some of those companies, it'll be a little bit difficult forging those waters going forward. But I don't think it's going to affect us though.
Yeah. As you think about inventory and what you purchase and how much, considering luxury SUV trucks, and then your compact cars, where do you feel like the growth opportunities are in 2025? Where do you feel like consumer preferences may shift?
And so this is where I'll spin on you a little bit, Bradley. I don't believe in narrowing my mind to what I believe the consumer. I don't believe that it's going to be truck, SUV, EV, ICE or hybrid. I don't think that it's that. It's, in my opinion, the next wave is consumer experience. And my focus for my company, that's what that'll be. It'll be based upon consumer experience. So mine was growing the company to where, we're selling X amount of cars a month, sustained. Then I'm going to back into it and change the experience, do as much as I can to create an experience, one in facility. And if I believe, in my opinion, if you have the facility, the employees enjoy their time at the facility, and then the consumers do as well. Because if you have a happy employee making great money, everybody else has a great experience. And so that's going to be my focus, and I think that's where I'll be able to garner most of the market, or the market that I'm going after, is when they're returning for another automobile, they'll choose us.
How do you translate the consumer experience that you just described at the facility to potentially online, as you think about the next wave of buyers, which is Gen Z? And, no longer is mom and dad buying their vehicles. They potentially have to be out on their own eventually. How do you think about, translating that incredible customer experience at the dealership to beginning that journey online?
Yeah, and that's a great point that you made. You said the words beginning that journey online. That's where it starts. That because it always ends up at the dealership. The consumer, what we hear in focus groups and what the consumer says they want, their actions don't match what they say they want. Okay. So the starting process there is fantastic. And in my opinion, again, I haven't heard this. I don't know what, all the details that are out there and stuff, but I still go back to the Toyota theme, right? Their theme today is, it's all emotion. So if you notice all of their ads, it's all based on emotion. Every individual that we're dealing with today, they all get what they want, right? That's what your phone has taught you. That's what media has taught you. If you think this, you're going to be served up nothing but that content, right? So you're always right, and I'm always getting what I want. And so unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at, in my opinion, in this country or world. But that's okay. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I disagree with calling people or whatever generations. I think it's just the particular situation that they're in at that time and how they've grown up. It doesn't mean anything. A lot of times it's used in a negative connotation, which I don't think is right at all. I think it's really just boils down to the experience that they're going to have, and if we treat them just like everybody else, give everybody a great experience, show them emotionally online. So if we can attach the vehicle in video and presentation, and they're trying to get some more information, well, don't come into the dealership. Let me give you the information. Let me show you the information. Let me video this information for you, send it to you. Let's get really connected in this experience by our phones or online, and I can get that done before you decide to come in.
I like that, and I think that more immersive. I think we as consumers just want information. We want to know how vehicles are priced. We want to know about it, and I feel like to the point when I come to a dealership, I'm saying, I want to test drive this VIN and this VIN, and and walk me through financing, and I need your help. But we often have done enough homework that when we come in, it's we're very intentional.
Yeah, and if you look at the customer's path right now, I mean, you would know this better than I, but I think it's 19 different sites or such, and 76 hours or some, crazy number like that. Well, the interesting thing is no one can remember all of that. So if you're searching for a vehicle, you can't remember where the last place that you looked because we're hitting you in so many different areas, right?
Yeah.
So it's just how many times can I be in that cycle of attribution and serving up enough information for you?
Yeah.
And then am I connecting with you enough on the emotional side to at least,
Yeah.
have something to remember us by? And in my opinion, what I've found over the years, we want to get really, really deep in the weeds on it. And I would say, let's retract that. Or if you're advertising, I'd say retract that just a titch. Simplify your message. Where us human beings are not as smart as we think we are. So it's interesting what people gravitate towards. My back in the day and was, the big green dealership, right?
Mm.
Well, I only wanted green in their minds.
Yeah.
That's the only word I wanted in their minds, right? It's a positive color. It's a go color, and we were the only ones with the green dealership in the
Yeah.
So,
As we kind of wrap up, I'd love to hear your predictions for 2025 as you think ahead, as you plan for success. What are some things that you anticipate or you're betting on?
employee experience and consumer experience. If you focus on those two things, I think that any industry, I think you'll do really well. I think there's everybody's really trying to understand how to make money today because it's gotten more difficult in any industry to make money. Gross compression, market compression, you've got to be everywhere at all times. Expenses are way up. So I think, 2025, the administration is probably going to do some positive things for us. Their rates will probably drop just a little bit. I wouldn't imagine that they're going to go down. It's not going to be
Yeah.
in the threes like they used to be or whatnot.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's realistic, and I think we need to understand that it shouldn't be there, for the economy or for the country to do its thing. But I think it's going to be a really, really, really good year. I think 26 is going to be better.
Okay.
So I'm gearing towards 26 in my mind right now, and everything I'm working towards is 26.
Love it. Well, Travis, pleasure having you today, and
Thanks for having me.
appreciate your thoughts and the predictions for next year.
Great. Thank you very much.